In one of my previous videos, I made a mistake. That gave me an idea. In this video, we're going to continue our deep dive into the running stitch, and I'm going to show you how to use it to make all kinds of gathers and puckers and Suffolk puffs and things. So let's get started with just a really basic gathering stitch. Now you'll need a really strong thread for this because you're going to be tugging on it quite firmly, and I'm going to use this little narrow piece of fabric that was left over from another project, and I'm going to secure my thread at the beginning with a few back stitches. And then before I go too far along, I'm going to give it a little tug, and this is where my pro tip comes in. Giving a little tug near the beginning is a good idea because, as you can see, it came out that time. So that gives me a chance to retie my knot at the beginning and start my stitching again before I got too far along. And now I'm not sure why I decided to fold this tiny little piece of cloth in half, but that's what I did. So I'm just doing big running stitches all the way from one end to the other end. And my cloth is already starting to curl up. So I thought I'd lean into that and attach the two ends together so it curls up into what looks like a scruffy little frilly flower. And that's what I'm going to sew down for this week's contribution to my year-long project. And if you've been watching my videos, you may be thinking, so what did I do last week for this year-long project? Or you may also have noticed that this piece of cloth looks a little bit different than the one that I was working on in week one. And it doesn't have all of those Sharpie marker marks and things like that. So let me show you what I got up to last week. So last week I showed you how to make this little pouch out of a single square of fabric. And one of the steps that I took was to baste two pieces of cloth together so that there was a lining in and outside. And that's actually what I did last week for my year-long project, because I realized that I'm getting a bit ahead of myself and I was going to run out of space on the first square that I had started on. So I thought it might be a good idea to get started on a second square of cloth. So that was my contribution last week. And that indeed is the piece that I'm working on for this week. Hello, I hope your year is going well so far. I thought that this top with all the gathers up here around the neckline would be perfect to wear for today's video. And I wanted to pop in and tell you about a really beautiful project that one of my viewers mentioned. It's called the Red Dress Project. A UK-based artist created this dress that was embroidered by women from all over the world. And I really encourage you to take a look at the website and have a tissue in your hand. I can't guarantee that there won't be a few tears. The dress itself is going to be exhibited in Washington State until March 2025. And I will leave the information about where. So if you're in the vicinity or could get there, maybe you'd like to go and have a look at it for yourself. Now let me show you the main attraction. That's Suffolk puffs or yo-yos. And Sierra says, if I can't play with them, I'm not interested. These little princess cats, on the other hand, do have some Suffolk puffs there that they can play with. So Suffolk puffs are these frilly little circles that are made from a larger circle of cloth. And here's another application of them where I've made them into poppies in this piece here. So how do we make these little circles of goodness? Well, I'm going to start out by cutting a circle of cloth, and your circle can be any size. And I've got this little square here, and I'm just looking for a circle that's the right size. And yes, I am using a Sharpie instead of an erasable marker, but it's not going to show. It'll get hidden. Here's another pro tip. One way to hide the pen marks is to cut just inside the circle, and that way the marks will be left on the scrap fabric that I'm not going to be using. But I'm not even worried about that at this point. I'm just cutting around There's a little bit of the mark on the edge, but I'm not going to worry about that because I can deal with that in my next step. So now I'm going to start my stitching near the edge of that piece of cloth, and you'll notice there how I folded over the edge. Well, that bit that's folded over with the marks is not going to show in the finished Suffolk puff. It's going to be completely hidden, and I'm also not going to have a raw edge in the middle of my Suffolk puff. So all I have to do is to take running stitches around the outside edge, and I don't actually have to do this folding over bit, but I can if I want. And so that's what I'm doing this time. Most of the time I don't do that, and then I can either leave the raw edge or cover it up. And this is one time when you absolutely don't have to worry about whether or not your stitches get pulled tight, because in the end you're going to pull them all tight. So this is again why you need to use a strong thread for this stitch. So you pull until all those stitches gather up into the middle there, and that is a Suffolk puff. You can see how much smaller the finished one is than the circle I started with. And I'm just going to sew that down onto this background here. And now I have a bit of bonus content from my Ko-fi supporters where I'll show them some variations on these Suffolk puffs. And my Ko-fi subscribers will get early access to the videos as well as a few bonuses each month. And I'd love to have you join us over there. So I went on a bit off a Suffolk puff making binge, and I've got several more to show you in different materials and different sizes. And you know, if you end up going down a rabbit hole because something that I show you intrigues you, just run with it and do what you like. Now, you may also have noticed that this little piece does not look the same as it did before when I made it. Well, I thought that beige was a little bit of a dull color, so I just colored it in with a bit of Sharpie, because you can do that. And I also happened to notice that there's this little scrap of lace sitting on my table, so I thought, why not gather that up as well? Nothing is safe on my table. If it's there and it looks like it'll work for whatever it is I'm working on, I will use it. So let's see what happens. So I really like the way that this little scruffy piece of lace looks when it's all gathered up there into a circle like that. And my smallest little Suffolk puff there looks great in the center. I quite like that. But I'm not going to attach these extra puffs onto my weekly piece. I have another plan for them. I have this little bag that I made a couple of years ago with a little ruffle around the bottom, and I haven't finished it. I'm going to have to make lots more Suffolk puffs, but I think that they will look really nice in little clusters on each side of the bag. And I'm going to leave this video here, but there's another bonus for my Ko-fi supporters. I'm going to show them what's inside this bag and tell them about why I made it. For everyone else, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, maybe you'd like to watch another one of my videos. Bye for now.